Welcome in Thursday morning, Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal, McCready, Clark Ford studio here today. Into the screen a little bit there. There we go. Jeffrey Wright joining us as he does every single Thursday morning. We'll call him in a minute. NFL playoffs going on this weekend. Ole Miss faces Georgia in basketball noon on Saturday for that one. I think the women might play Georgia today for some reason. I want to say that's next up for them. So anyway, those.
I think that's right. I think they're in Athens.
Yeah. So those topics and more coming up on the show. A show brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon Highway 6 West in Oxford. Blue Sky locations throughout Mississippi. Lunch specials, any size fountain drink, bread of your choice, hot cakes, desserts, ribs tonight for dinner. Maybe a lot of options for you there. As the day goes on, whether it be lunch, dinner, gas, convenience store, plenty of options. Oxford Exxon Highway 6, and again, coming to you from the Clark Ford studio.
We are Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900. Call that number. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours, right to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. You get your quote. The rest completely up to you. You can shop that quote around. You can do what I've done, what I recommend that you do, and that's hop into a Clark Ford today. Jeffrey Wright and others will join on the myperfectfranchise.net hotline. If you're a displaced corporate executive, you're wanting to put your career in your own hands, maybe you're an experienced entrepreneur wanting to diversify. If so, Andy Ledecky can help. He's he owns multiple franchises and businesses. He uses his expertise to help others find their American dream through a very thorough and free consultation process. Call Andy, put your life and career in your own hands. It's 100% free, so you have nothing to lose. Find your perfect franchise at myperfectfranchise.net. Contact Andy at myperfectfranchise.net or call 404-973-9901.
So, let's see. There's not a lot going on in the last 24 hours, honestly. I was sitting here going, Jeffrey, ready? We know what we're doing.
I'm about to hit him. There's not much going on. There's a couple of things I'll touch on fast.
Yeah, sure.
We'll talk about Jaden Rashada in a minute because I think it's a big story. The bring him to Ole Miss narrative, if anybody does that to you, they're clickbaiting you. There's literally 0.0% signs that Ole Miss is still involved with Jaden Rashada. I know that
feels low.
Probably not great.
That feels low.
Yeah, probably not great ratings fodder here.
Sure.
It would probably be more clickbaity to go, let me tell you for 35 minutes why Ole Miss is the perfect fit for Jaden Rashada, except he's not. It's not happening. And then the kid from Louisiana, Howard, literally everyone says his deal to TCU is basically done. Transferring. He got in the portal from LSU.
The one bit of college sports news that did come out yesterday is from the D1 Baseball Council. They kind of reminded me in the stream there. Starting in July, the third assistant for college baseball will be a full-time paid position. In the past, you've had the head coach, 2 paid assistants, and then a volunteer position that got paid by basically camp money and could not recruit off campus. So now that third assistant spot is a full-time normal position. You'll have some schools who go out and kind of get somebody. Some schools who simply pay their third assistant. They currently have a wage. My gut is that Ole Miss will allow Chris Cleary to stay as long as he would like to stay, and then should he move or go somewhere else or try to move up somewhere, maybe they reevaluate sort of the way they do assignments. But I mean, again, this is not even really source. It's just my opinion. I don't expect it to change much other than Chris Cleary will be able to get paid more money and go out on the road for the Rebels. So there's that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not firing assistants because they now allow you to pay them.
No.
That would be a weird move.
Feels sort of strange.
It would, but I mean, the point is, if you're starting from scratch and if you're Ole Miss, there is a working theory that would make sense to have Carl essentially just be a recruiter, Mike be the hitting coach, Clement, and then hire a pitching coach. If you're just completely building the staff from scratch. Where that did not work in the past, you go, hey, just go get somebody. It's like, okay, what reputable pitching coach you coming in to get paid camp money for? That's not that.
Auburn did it with Tim Hudson.
They did, sure. Yes, that's very, very true.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
Go hire Oral Hershiser or something.
If he would like to come on down, he could afford it, and it would all work out swimmingly. Might have been how Darren Erstad first got started back in the day.
Trevor Bauer doesn't not do anything right now.
That's a good point. Trevor Bauer's free.
I mean, and he's getting paid already.
Ole Miss could get him for less than $700,000.
He might even be able to give to the NIL.
Oh,
see, you always create problems, and I solve.
You're looking for solutions.
I solve problems. Hire Trevor Bauer. He might have some personnel issues. HR might have some flags, but it'll be all right.
Yeah,
you're not paying him.
It's true.
What if he helps with your spin rate?
He probably would.
He probably would. He was ahead of the curve on spin rate.
Yeah. When Lance Lynn hangs it up, if he gets bored, he can come back and coach some ball.
They're not requiring vaccines anymore.
No.
See, you're all good. This is solved. I mean, call Mike, say, hey, Neal's got this figured out.
We'll come by, fill you in on what we need to do here. We'll handle this. I don't know what Lance will do when he's done. He's still pitching at a high level. You got to look.
Yeah.
Not a lot
of. Just throw forever. What's up?
Good morning.
How are you?
I am well. Yourselves?
We're good.
Neal's wanting to hire Trevor Bauer as the Ole Miss's pitching coach.
Well, I'm not wanting to. I just came up with a solution. I mean, Chase said that the problem is that it's hard to find, reputable pitching coaches to come basically work for free. And I said, well, Auburn did it with Tim Hudson, to which he had no response. He looked at me like, oh, I guess I'm busted here. And I said, so here's the solution for Ole Miss. You hire Trevor Bauer. He's making $22 million to sit home. You just bring him in. He might even give to the collective. You're not requiring vaccines anymore. That's not an issue. This is easy. It's done.
Isn't that blood money?
I mean, it's college sports. Aren't we past the whole wholesome charade? I mean, we're
right, but think in the end, I think what gets left out of the Bauer conversation, it's not necessarily like his is more complicated. But the thing that struck me about the entire thing is basically when he needed character witnesses, there really wasn't anyone that was willing to be like, he's just misunderstood. Everyone's like, that guy's a dick. And so he basically got a lifetime achievement award for his suspension.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, but
also okay, I'll play your game, but the problem with your analogy, what is Trevor Bauer's connection to Ole Miss?
I'm being facetious. I mean,
yeah, but at least with Tim Hudson, you can say, well, he did play there and he's part of the family, Neal.
That's true. It's family.
Glavin's kid plays at Auburn.
So maybe Tom Glavin joins
Ole Miss or joins Auburn?
Well, probably Auburn. But I mean, at Auburn, family means more.
Really good connections for other schools, but not for Ole Miss.
Yeah, family.
Well, as we said, when Lance Lynn hangs it up, he can come on back and coach some ball.
Is Pomeranz still pitching?
Yeah.
What's his deal?
So, yeah.
Bring him in.
I don't think Drew would be a very good coach, Jeffrey. I don't think he would be able to relay it to the younger generation.
I think that's fair, but I don't know. His dad was a pretty good pitching coach.
Yeah, he was.
Drew might have mellowed a little bit now.
Yeah.
A little younger, a little older.
I'm not worried about Drew's fire or whatnot. I'm worried about Drew's communication, because Drew's always been the best. From the time that Drew picked up a baseball, he was the best. I'm not sure. I don't know how he would communicate to those that aren't we'll just throw it 95 on the black.
That's hard for the elite guys to tell, because they expect, hey, you just do it. I mean, that's what happens. That's right. How it works.
It was one of the reasons that Larry Bird's tenure as a coach was amazing, because he was actually able to communicate and relate to people that were nowhere near as good as he was.
Yeah.
Magic Johnson, on the other hand, couldn't do it. He couldn't understand, why can't you just do what I'm telling you to do?
Well, Ted Williams had the same problem. Didn't we come up with a list of best player, coach, GMs? And I guess Bird has to be the answer, right?
Yeah. Almost has to be Bird.
I'm trying to think, is there anyone else that's even
I mean, I'm sure we're forgetting someone, but
I think the answer has to be in basketball or baseball, right?
Yeah. And it's Bird.
Is there a former great NFL player that also went, like Dan Reeves, I guess, was a good player and a good coach, but I don't know if he was ever graded either.
I'm trying to think. I mean, Ditka was a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah. That maybe that should be under consideration.
I mean, do we get to count Jerry West because of what he did for the Lakers as an executive?
Yeah.
Does that count? It's not coach, but
West is probably the best example of player and executive.
yeah.
But I guess you could also put Bird, because Bird was also a front office guy.
Yeah, Bird did all of it.
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side, like Jordan's been horrible at it. Jordan's been horrible at it from a executive side and from an ownership side.
That's true. Yeah. And I just think sometimes people that are the absolute upper crust of what they do just cannot relate to what they view as average. They can't dumb it down. They're too smart.
I don't even know if it's necessarily like specific to sports. You know what I mean? Like,
no, sure.
Highly effective leaders don't really stand for those that can't do, like, that don't have the same drive that they do. I think it maybe more of a human nature thing than it is particularly athletics. I did not expect to be thinking of how could we get Trevor Bauer to Oxford to coach up some pitching this year.
No, you never know what you're going to get here on this podcast, especially in January when college basketball, which normally would be the topic of conversation, is kind of off limits at this point. It's makes it challenging. It's like when
very upset
June
at myself
comes to January.
Chase has the receipts. I'm very upset at myself. Vegas gave us free money on Tuesday
with Auburn.
Why was that line that line was 1.5, and so I got so spooked because I thought they knew something.
A lot of people did that. They went completely the other way just because you went, ooh.
There's like, like if you had been following the Rebels, you knew this ain't right.
Well, I mean, your argument was they played well against Tennessee at home for the majority of the game. It's at home. I mean, home teams win basketball games. Auburn is not exactly great from outside. I mean, you can get there.
And the other argument is, like, in general, Kermit's teams play well against Bruce's teams. Like that dates back even to MTSU. But I mean, I know Neal has to be careful, and I guess Chase to a certain extent. This team's on Q watch for me, and I'm not talking about QAnon.
Yeah, no. I think here's the inside baseball stuff. If they lose Saturday to Georgia, and I don't know what that line is. Georgia beat Mississippi State at home last night by 6, I think, in what was an absolute rock fight.
Yeah, they basically made some free throws, and that was the difference because nobody could score.
There was 2 games on TV last night that I kind of watched. I watched Georgia State some, and I watched Arkansas, Alabama a good bit.
Yeah, that game was weirdly a rock fight, too.
It kind of was a rock fight. Arkansas needed it to be a rock fight because they kept getting in foul trouble. But Alabama's really, really good. Really, really good. Alabama's good enough to win the whole thing.
So I'm great. That's great to hear, because yesterday on the show, live in real time, I decided I was going to put some futures down to make myself watch more. Bama was one of the teams I picked. I picked Bama, UCLA, and I don't love it, but I picked it because they fit the profile. Kansas, I don't love having a future on a team trying to win back-to-back, but I got Kansas at 12-1, and I don't think you'll get them at 12-1 probably the rest of the way.
No, and Kansas is good enough to win the whole thing again also.
Right. But I just, I don't, my argument against Kansas is, I mean, how many teams win back-to-back? But
super hard. All right. Back to what I was saying, though.
Mm-hmm.
If Ole Miss loses on Saturday to Georgia, we've officially hit the point where you have to start asking questions. And I literally was like standing in the shower yesterday, and I was thinking about, like, how do you ask what needs to be asked? And you, like, shuffle through it 10 times over and you just don't get the words right? Like, how do you, at 0-5 in January, how do you ask a coach about the future?
It is one of my favorite journalism things that you do. You stand there and just start practicing questions wherever you are and going, hey, is this the wording? Is this exactly how this needs to?
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be this freaking complicated.
No.
But to get the answer, you have to massage it.
So the problem though with this is, like, let's distill it down to the basics. What is the real question? Do you expect to be back next year? Because like I don't know what the question is. Is the question about
that can't be the question, because that's not his choice. He can't answer that.
Right.
Here's the question that I came up with in my mind.
Are you okay? Do you think the direction of the program is acceptable? Like, I don't know. Go ahead.
Here's what I kind of came up with is before the season, and this very recently, Keith Carter in an interview, I'll give credit where credit's due. Keith Carter in an interview with David Johnson of 247 Sports. I don't have the exact words in front of me, but Keith essentially said, and I'm again paraphrasing, that the NCAA tournament, making the tournament, remains the standard for the program. Is that basically right, Chase?
Yeah, I'll find the exact quote, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so that's paraphrased, at least.
Well, it's also not true, but okay, if it's on the record, it's on the record. Yes.
Yeah, if he said that on the record to a media member on the beat,
yes,
it becomes true when Keith says it because he's the AD.
If Keith says that's the standard, well, then that's the standard. And so if that's the standard, you're 0-5. Realistically, unless you go 12-1 the rest of the way, or unless you catch some magic fire in Nashville and win 5 games in 5 nights, good luck. You're not going to the NCAA tournament. How do you change the expectations internally in your program and keep guys motivated to play when your postseason goal is already basically off the table?
Yeah, and I have it here before you answer, Jeffrey, and it's this is from David 247. He says, Keith answering the question, talking about expectations. I think it probably depends on where you are with your specific program. If you're in year 1 or 2 and rebuilding and trying to do some things, then maybe NIT or one of the other postseason opportunities is something that's okay. But I think where we are with both of our basketball programs right now, the NCAA tournament is the standard. That's what we'll be pushing toward, and I think that's what we need to expect year in and year out.
I'm with you, Jeffrey. I mean, is that realistic? History says it's not.
My deal is forget whether or not, like, let's set aside whether or not it's realistic, because I think that's a different question.
Mm-hmm.
Based on, let's see, Neal, you are how old?
53.
And you have been familiar with Ole Miss basketball since, I believe, 1988?
Yep.
Okay. Chase, you're how old?
39.
Okay. I am 34. We are both familiar with Ole Miss basketball since basically we were able to walk. Let's see. At what point in time was it ever the standard and the accepted reality of going to the tournament?
I mean, it's one period. It's 97 to 2001.
Correct. And if, I think
2002.
Rod missed it. He went 3 out of 4 years, right? They missed it.
97 was Temple. 98 was Valpo. They finally won a game in 99. And then 2000 was maybe NIT. 2001 was Sweet 16. And 2002 was a first-round loss.
Right. And in that in the NIT year, I do not remember Rod getting fired. I also don't remember his job coming under question. Like, that's just not the standard. Like, that's just not true. Like, I think if you want to say the NCAA tournament, now I understand also from Keith's perspective, like there's an executive aspect, like, but this is the same thing that I'm dealing with Memphis football when their AD comes out and says 6-6 isn't acceptable. Well, this is the second straight year that the coach has gone 6-6 and you didn't make a change. So why don't we just acknowledge that it is acceptable? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I understand from like a positioning and a PR standpoint that you want to say that, but it's simply not true.
Play games that are relevant deep into the season and make the tournament some.
I honestly think it's fair to say the expectation should be every third year. I also acknowledge I don't know if an athletic director can come out and say, you know what we expect
You can't.
every third year. Like you know what I mean? Like I understand that. I get very annoyed when people put on the record what the standard is and then you don't hold yourself to the record. Like I don't think that's a winning formula either.
No, it's complicated because look, you know where I'm going with this. The moment that Kermit's not the coach anymore, whether that's in March or whether that's next March or whatever, whenever that moment is, it's no longer about him. Now if you're Keith and Alan Green and the people over there, you've got to go make a hire that makes a difference. Because if you just repeat it, then it's your fault.
So that's the question. I think that's kind of the bigger questions to me with Kermit is, where did it go wrong? Because I think I can make a case that it never really went right.
That's more than fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the conversation. It's the conversation that I'm admitting my own failures here. I mean, I really am. I feel like we're having like a conversation because I've not asked these questions. One of the questions that if I had the guts to ask it, and I like Kermit, he's a nice guy. I think he would take offense to this question. Do you think that you recruited the same players that you recruited at Middle Tennessee at Ole Miss? And looking back, do you think maybe you should have recalibrated the level of player that you recruit? And here's what I mean when I say that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because at Middle Tennessee, in that league, look, Kermit's a good basketball coach.
Yeah, he didn't forget X's and O's.
At Middle Tennessee, I think he was able to take his Jimmies and beat your Joes with his coaching. And in the SEC,
correct. You can't do it in this league.
You can't do it. Like Andy and I had this conversation. I don't think Andy would mind me saying this. This is fairly recently. We were not talking about Ole Miss. We were just talking about the difference in the leagues. He's in a league now where he's been in the league for a while, and like Stansberry's been coaching for a while. And sometimes,
by the way, they played last night and on television. Have y'all gotten a look at Rick recently?
Was he there last night?
Oh, maybe I thought that was him on the sideline, but that makes me feel better that it wasn't.
He has not been well. He had not coached. He had not coached in several. He had not. If he coached last night, it was his first league game to coach. He's not been doing well. He's had a health issue.
Okay, that makes me feel better. Like, because I was like, the guy looked enough like Rick that like he still had like the gelled back hair, but I was like, he looked like the crypt keeper. Okay, that makes me feel better that it wasn't Rick.
Yeah,
I was like, I got like legitimately worried.
Yeah, I think there is concern about his health. I'm going to guess that he wasn't there last night.
Yeah, it says I just saw a story. It says he was not. They beat Andy, but he wasn't.
Yeah,
still.
Andy's team has hit a rough patch. But he was talking about how in that league, sometimes you can coach against young coaches that are still sort of learning how to coach.
Sure.
And you can outcoach them a little bit. And in the SEC, it just doesn't happen like that because you're night in and night out. You're going up against Nate Oates, John Calipari, Bruce Pearl, Rick Barnes, Musselman. The list goes on and on, right? I mean, you the coaches like in the past, Frank Martin even. I mean, you're just going up against good coaches. You're not just going to outcoach people, with rare exception. You're not just going to show up and go, "Hey, I don't have the talent you've got, but watch this. We're going to throw this scheme at you, and we're just going to wipe you off the floor." That just doesn't happen. And so I think it's about athletes, and that's where I question whether, more than anything, I don't question effort. I don't question dedication. I don't question coaching. I know people talk about his style, and I do think the style's a problem. That being said, I just think so much of it is evaluations.
No, I think the style is a problem, but I don't think it's anywhere near the biggest problem. Like in the end, if you're not, I guess the other question though, to be completely fair, does he have a job that you can get players?
Well, that's the question. I mean, that's what I mean. When you turn the page, whenever that is, when you turn the page, the question is, okay, is this a job you can win at? And if the answer is, well, no, then, okay, well, you got to fix that. Like, I got the mailbag question because people kind of push back a little bit about my insistence that you have to be good at basketball. You have to be. I don't think it's a choice. That's my opinion. People go, well, if you were AD, what would you do? I'm like, well, I'm not the AD. But if I were the AD, in those meetings, I would say, this is not acceptable. It's not about him. It's not about, we have to be better. Well, we can't be. Well, then we have to figure out how to be. It has to matter because the sport matters. You look around and you see these crowds like you look at the crowd at Bud Walton last night. You look at the crowd at Coleman the other day when Kentucky was in town. You look at just around the country and you see these crowds, and you can't just go, well, we don't do that here. We'll wait for baseball season. Nope, that's unacceptable. It has nothing to do with baseball. So you have to figure it out. And I don't know whether that's resources, whether it's whenever you make a move, you've got to bring in somebody who excites people to the point that extra resources show up. Period. I mean, it's end of conversation.
To your point, like, you hear this more probably in football, but the reality is these coaches the ones that aren't embracing NIL, I don't even think it's necessarily that they're not embracing player acquisition. I think when you really distill it down, what you hear is, I don't want to be the guy that has to put the money together. And I think the biggest problem is, I think that's your number one job now.
Oh, I do too. I think it's.
I think the number one responsibility is make sure that you have that. Like, I think it is a part of roster allocation.
What do you make of this Jaden Rashada thing? I know we don't have you forever. I'm curious to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, you got to fill me in here.
So, yeah, I know. I forget.
Minutia of college football wasn't your show yesterday, Jeffrey?
So Jaden Rashada,
no.
The 4-star.
I saw, is there a Spencer Sanders rumor going around?
Yeah,
that too.
Let's go. Okay, well, Chase and I'll handle Rashada later. Let's get your thoughts on Spencer Sanders. Are you, if I tell you, and look, I don't know that it's done. I don't know exactly what's going on. It's really hard to get concrete information out of
hypothetically, if Spencer Sanders signs with Ole Miss.
What does that tell you?
Is there an issue with Dart that I don't know about?
Not to our knowledge.
If there is, I'm unaware.
To me, my first thought is I'm worried about Jackson's shoulders. I don't understand bringing in Spencer Sanders. Like, it's one thing to bring in quarterback depth. I don't think Spencer Sanders left Oklahoma State to go be a depth guy. I also have watched enough Spencer Sanders to know, like, yeah, you can kind of win with him, but Jackson's a better football player.
Agreed.
So I don't understand that. That is, and maybe I'll find out that I'm wrong. But I think the other thing we can safely say we learned this year is, while the Big 12 was a competitive league and kind of a fun league, I think we saw that there was clearly, when Kansas State and TCU are duking it out for the title, that typically means that, that's the canary in the coal mine, that the league's probably not great. I don't think you just go into the SEC and take a step up. So that's a confusing reality to me.
Luke Altmaier was a really good soldier all year because Luke had a transfer year. He knew he was getting in the portal. He very clearly communicated that. I mean, I don't know this, but I'd bet a lot of money on it based on conversations and common sense. That he basically said when they named Dart the starter, hey, look, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to be a good soldier, but do not put me in the game. I'm saving this year of eligibility.
Mm-hmm. And I think there was a moment where, like, he would have gone in and then they played Dent.
Yeah. And so he was a good soldier. He had the transfer year. There was a lot of interest in the tampering portal for Luke, and so he knew he was going to have options. And listen, I'm all for bringing in competition. Do it. Go for it. This just feels weird because you got through basically saying, "Hey, Jackson, you got to be the leader." And he played really well. I thought late in the season, I thought he played really well. I didn't think he was the problem. And now you bring in somebody where whoever doesn't win that, are they going to be as good of a soldier? I mean, if Spencer Sanders, who played a ton of football at Oklahoma State, is he going to be content just standing on the sideline holding a clipboard? And if Jackson, who played a ton of football, and neither one of them would have their transfer year available, if he's not the starter, I mean, how?
And he's become a dominant leader.
What do you do?
I guess if you want to go skeptical, is it possible the fact that neither has their transfer year that you can kind of use that?
I mean, I guess
locker room issues abound.
I mean, listen, here's the thing. People can get as mad as you want. One of the storylines, and again, I just don't know that anybody's willing to really dive in on it and touch it, is that was not. There were chemistry issues on that team dating back to late October that had nothing to do with Auburn. Now the Auburn stuff
didn't help.
It brought a lot of stuff boiling to the surface, but the pot was already simmering. I mean, that was not a super happy football team. Middle of the year, it just wasn't. There was a lot going on, and so it just feels. I mean, I get it. If you can bring in another quarterback who's talented and adds to competition, I get it 100%. I just understand that on the flip side, it's like you might be inviting some trouble.
What's Sanders' motivation here, though? I mean, that's the thing here. Are we missing something where he's going somewhere else, but they're trying to get a win over Ole Miss and make it real public and all this kind of stuff? Because if I'm Sanders, I'm aware of Jackson Dart. Barring some injury we're unaware of,
right?
It makes no sense. He doesn't want to transfer to be a backup. And at minimum, it's 50% on who's going to win this competition. I mean,
the only thing I can think of is Spencer Sanders is married. Like, I don't know, does he have kids now? Like, what if this is, hey man, he's literally just taking the payday. He doesn't really care about whether or not he does or doesn't play. Like, I could buy that, but then I would have serious questions. If you're Ole Miss and you're spending $500,000 or whatever, you're spending that much money on your backup quarterback, doesn't that not make sense?
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense, and I don't think the number would be anywhere close to that.
Whatever, 100, let's say $150,000 or whatever.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, aren't you better off trying to go get another receiver?
Why is he leaving Oklahoma State, by the way?
There seems to be a Gundy issue.
Okay.
Like, have you? I don't know if you kept up a ton. Like, he's losing starters left and right.
Yeah, I can tell.
It's either a Gundy issue or it is they cannot pay issue.
There's a culture issue at Oklahoma State, very clearly. They're having a locker room issue there.
Correct.
It's just an interesting dynamic. I on one hand, I get it, and on the other hand, like Chase said, if I'm Spencer Sanders, I'm like, wait, now hold up. And maybe there's something more to it.
That's why I feel like we're missing something.
Well, and
I would hope it's just, hey, you're just trying to drive the price up and make somebody else pay for them.
Maybe so. And this whole recruiting thing has gotten so super secretive that it's almost ridiculous at this point.
Well, isn't it ironic how it's gotten like that? Yet at the time, the other flip side is like at least they're acknowledging that it's pay for play. Like, it's weird. It's how, like, on one hand, it's at least gotten apparent or it's gotten open, and then on the other hand, it's like now it feels like more than ever it feels like they're protecting state secrets.
Yeah, it's the part of it that is exhausting a little bit. Is like, oh, come on, like getting information about even, and I'm not criticizing, it's one of those things. I mean, people are like, where's the recruiting stuff? It's like, man, I mean, we're trying. I mean, I don't even know who's coming in tomorrow.
Well, and then you have
kids, they know who's coming.
Kids that are charging for quotes and whatnot. It's like, that's not journalism. That's a PR. It's a PR company.
Caden Prescore responded the other day. He goes, "Yeah, I'll talk to you." And I was like, "Really? You'll like have a 4-minute conversation?" I mean, and all we did was exchange DMs. I mean, I was just shocked.
Oh, was that still it?
That's it. Yeah. I was like, "Hey, we can chat or we can do DMs." He goes, "Is it okay if we do DMs?" I'm like, "That's fine. All right, whatever. Here's 4 questions. Just answer them."
And he did.
And it was fine.
Yeah. I mean, I know he's got a fiance. I mean, you want to talk about someone that is an adult, like he's fiance and they've got a little girl. Like, so, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think you have to play the game as much with guys like that. But I mean, the other thing like that I'm thinking about, it's like, what's Alabama doing at quarterback?
Like, I'm 100% sure exactly how good Ty Simpson is or isn't, because he didn't play over the other kid when Young got hurt. I mean, we heard that he was, this phenom that was going to take the thing by storm, and it's been sort of hush on him lately.
Well, I mean, that was the other thing I kept thinking was, I don't know if necessarily that's a point against him, because maybe what you realize, like, all right, well, let's just put Milroe in there, let him run around, and we can win the games that way, rather than burn a year of Simpson. But at the same time, it's like, we saw Milroe almost cost them the Texas A&M game.
Yeah.
So, and at no point did I even see Ty Simpson warming up.
I have a suspicion it was just, hey, we're not going to play Simpson till he's ready. We're not going to do anything that might burn a red shirt. We're not going to, I don't know. Beats me.
But it was so weird because you get the 4 games.
I know. And maybe he just wasn't ready, or they just didn't think he was ready, or maybe they felt like if they played him that Milroe would bolt too. I don't know.
My guess, and y'all can tell me if you think I'm barking up the wrong tree, my guess is they're starting quarterbacks not on their roster yet.
That would have been my guess until a couple of these, like Drake May stayed, and the kid from Wake, Hartman, ended up at Notre Dame.
And I'm not even trying to start something. It is important to note, he stayed for the first go-round.
Yeah, but it sounds like he's good.
I mean, if you want to go really skeptical, that was just Drake May's way of saying, all right, boys, we're driving the price up even more.
If he didn't have the ties to
that would be
North
a heel
Carolina
move at this point.
Yeah, I just don't know.
I think it would be a heel move. I also think what the most likely scenario was people were going after him, and Carolina just was like, well, basketball's next week, like, hang on. And then once they realized it, Carolina took care of it. Like, that's my suspicion.
That's what I think too. I don't think it's him.
I don't think it's him, but I think there are, I don't know. I guess that's the other thing. It's like, I keep thinking there's going to be another round of quarterback carousel, but then you start thinking about, it's like, who is there?
And listen, it's possible. I know this is sacrilegious to say this out loud, not to piggyback on David Pollack, but it's possible that the dynasty's over and there's a new dynasty.
Oh, I think they've certainly traded places. I think it is 100% fair to say that Alabama is now what Georgia has been, and Georgia is what Alabama has been. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I also do not think that Nick Saban's going into the year unsettled at quarterback. So either his guy is on the roster or he's not.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not going to look over there and go, yeah, you know what? It just is what it is.
I don't think this is going to be a year where, like, John Parker Wilson ends up playing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because he's just there.
I mean, I just think it's possible that, not that the game has passed him by or any of that stuff, but that he's just been outmaneuvered a little bit.
Well, like,
and listen, here's the thing about Alabama that nobody ever really wanted to talk about. And it was one of the, Saban pushed back pretty hard about some of the pay for play and all that stuff, because Alabama doesn't have the resources that Georgia has.
No, he straight up said, I can't make more rich people in Alabama.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the day that he, made the comments about Jimbo or whatever, that was at a fundraiser in Birmingham trying to get more people to raise more money. I mean, that was his
motivational tactic.
Yes, that he was trying to say, hey, he came across the wrong way, but I don't think he meant to say, hey, Jimbo's out there cheating, buying players. I think he was just saying, hey, they have more money.
This is the price. Yeah.
I think that was it. And it just kind of came out wrong. Then Jimbo blew it up. And yeah. I know you got to go. What's going on with your show?
Well, the Tigers lost at UCF in double overtime last night. The Grizzlies won last night, but it wasn't like super clean. Although, in the NBA, it's funny how in college sports we grade the win, but in the NBA, all we care, or like in professional sports, all we really care about what's the final record. Like it is kind of funny how we Like in college sports, we have to be like, was that a good win? Like in the NBA, it's like no one really cares.
Yeah, and these are the dog days of the NBA season. You're just trying to survive.
Correct.
Hey, thanks for the time as always, my friend.
All right, boys, be good.
Later, Joe. Jeffrey Wright joining us there, as he does every single Thursday. I guess we'll tease it, talk about it. Jaden Rashada. He's currently not enrolled, but he is a Florida signee.
Yeah, he signed his papers.
His dad says that Florida's not letting him out of his NIL. They're still working on it.
So On three, correct me if I'm wrong, On three reported that he has asked out of his.
I don't know who reported it, but
and 247 came back
and said no.
And said, quoting the father, that no, we haven't asked out.
Yeah, correct.
But he's not enrolled.
That is correct.
And
a very public quarterback with very public NIL situations earlier in the calendar year.
Yeah.
Or last calendar year.
Well, we always said that this day would come when promises were made. And then the moment would come when you're like, okay, well, where's my money? And they'd be like, well, we're getting to it. No, I need it now before I start my clock here. Well, look at, when the mail goes through Memphis, Jaden, you just never know where it's going to go. And this was inevitable, wasn't it? When you have a kid who's out there essentially going, hey, highest bidder. And
the question, okay, here's the deal. It's one of two things. I mean, this isn't overly complicated, barring something I'm incredibly unaware of. It's one of two. Has Florida tried to change the terms of the deal, or something hadn't gone through? That they've got some issue administratively?
Well, that's the rumor.
Or is Rashada going, yeah, I know that's what we agreed upon, but that's not going to get me there. Either I need it earlier or I need more, and that's the holdup. Because it's some combination or one or the other. That's
my guess, and I'm saying this figuratively, is that the check bounced. That's my guess.
Well,
my
if
guess
that check is bouncing, then
that's the rumor.
Then they're all bouncing.
Well, that's what they're saying. Again, it's one thing to go, we'll pay you $11 billion.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm coming. All right. When they get there, where's my $11 billion? Well, what we meant was 50,000. In increments. We'll get it to you. It's coming. I'm at the point where I need it now.
And he's essentially holding out.
And he's holding out.
It's a professional term.
So here's the deal. If we really are going to say this is professional sports and we're going to head down the path of professional sports, at some point, professional sports, the money has to become transparent.
It's not professional sports. It's anarchy. There's a difference.
But you understand my point.
Good luck.
I know. And that's why.
It's anarchy. It's not professional sports.
Not even a little bit.
Professional sports are the most meticulous, organized dollar situations imaginable.
Well, we know Carlos Correa got 6 years, $200 million. We know that Rafael Devers, $75 million of his money was deferred.
Yeah.
We know specifics. In this, it's everything is secretive and cloudy and shh. People like me are like, this is dumb. This is not important enough for it to be that big of a secret. Why is this such a secret? We can't tell you who's coming on a visit. Oh my God, spare me the drama. It's a college football program. We're not curing something here. And so when stuff like this happens, I'm not even a little surprised. I got that question.
I'm surprised it doesn't happen more.
Yeah, are you surprised this Jaden Rashada? Not even a little bit. I mean, I saw the kid in Las Vegas with my own two eyes, said hello to him. He was wearing Florida stuff and cheering for the Gators. And
had a rough day.
They had a rough day. But he stuck it out. When I left at the first part of the fourth quarter, he was still down there in his jersey cheering on the Gators.
Was he?
And I'm sure part of him was thinking, hey, I'll come in there and solve this.
Well, yeah, they all think that.
And then weeks later, it comes time to show up. And it seems, and look, I'm putting two and two together. it seems that there was an upfront payment that was supposed to be made that hasn't been made. And he's like, well, I'm not doing this without my money. I'm going clear across the country to play college football. It's because of a bidding situation. Because I don't think Florida is where Jaden Rashada would have chosen to play had money not been an issue. I don't know where it would have been, but I don't think it would have been Florida. He chose Miami first.
He did.
And the rumor there was a huge NIL agreement.
Yeah. No, other than the Tennessee kid, Nico, the Tennessee kid's name, who I'm forgetting right now, he was the most public NIL quarterback of the class, Rashada.
Yeah.
From a that's what this is standpoint. Power to him.
Grind makes a point. Napier shouldn't even want the kid at this point. I mean, if Jaden Rashada shows up now,
not exactly leading your program out of the cellar right now, it doesn't feel like.
I mean, if he shows up right now, everybody around there goes, how much did you get?
Oh.
I didn't get that much. And there are guys right now going, so he's not coming because he didn't get paid. Am I making a mistake because you told me the money's coming and I took your word for it, and here I am, I'm lifting weights at 6 a.m. The strength coach keeps yelling at me, and I'm about to respond with, well, where's my money? I mean, there might be a part of Billy Napier right now that goes, I really missed that place in Lafayette that had the breakfast.
That was fun. French press. Yeah. My pancakes were no problem at all.
Maybe I should have taken the South Carolina job.
Shane seems happy.
They don't have NIL problems.
No.
But no, they don't.
Well, look, Florida gave a glimpse of this in that athletic story months ago. The story was well done. I think it was Andy, may not have been, maybe probably was Andy, it was Florida. Was talking about how the crowdsourcing didn't work. I'm using air quotes because they had relied on it to such an extent, and they had the billionaire that was fronting so much, but they were frustrated about getting money in hand. That they had some success, but did not feel like the current model. They were building and they were optimistic, but it was at that moment it was not sustainable on what was coming. And then they had a bad football season. Well, you don't generate a lot more money typically during bad football seasons. And sometimes those pledges turn into not pledges during bad football seasons.
And the difference between South Carolina and Florida, per my understanding, is that South Carolina's not out there going, we'll give you $11 billion, just come. South Carolina's like, no, here's the specific NIL that we'll do for you.
This is what we got.
This is what we've got. And even though we can't do this based on incentives, if you play better
next year, we'll take care of
We'll take care of you. We'll bump it up. And so when you make these multi-million-dollar deals with kids that are built on a 5-year deal, they're going to ask for a lot of it up front. It's not them. It's not the kid. It's the people around the kid. It's the handlers. It's the uncles. It's the stuff.
That are either literally doing it or convince the kid to do it, one or the other.
Yeah. And when somebody around them goes, we'll give you $11 billion.
So what's your guess? It's going to get fixed?
No, my guess is he ends up not at Florida.
Where's he going to go?
I don't know.
What if they don't let him out the NIL?
Well, he can get in the transfer portal.
Look, if the NCAA, I know we're jumping a little here, if the NCAA sticks to it, some big news for them yesterday about the portal and that second transfer possibility. Pretty hard line rules on getting a second transfer. If you get into the portal, you go to a different school, and then you want to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for the exact wording right now. I have it here. As Marcelo said, it's simply put, it's going to be tougher, which is true.
Okay.
So it says the council. Well, if I would say the council, they are the
council.
Yes. The council unanimously, even if it wasn't unanimous, it eventually was.
Sure.
Yes. If it is not unanimous, that is not the final vote. It will pass. Then we're all going to vote again. Got it? Cool. All right. Sweet. Appreciate that.
It's like Sankey. This is going to be unanimous.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Outside of the non-game thing where a couple schools are going to boycott so they can tell their fan base they did what they should do, even though they knew it was going to pass and probably wanted it in their own heads.
A couple schools are going to vote present.
Yes, a couple schools are going to vote for the 8-game conference schedule. So then they can go, we tried, guys. I know you want that extra win. We got bullied by the other people in the room.
Yeah.
We did all we could.
Yeah.
And they're going to go, yeah, we're glad that 9-game went through.
Cash that check.
ADs and coaches are fighting each other.
Yes.
All the ADs want the 9-game schedule, and several coaches want the extra win.
Yes.
That's what's happening, but the 9-game schedule is going to win.
Yes.
So it's already done.
Yes. The votes are in.
Yeah, it is not a democracy in the room that day.
No.
So anyway, this is the waiver process for undergraduate student athletes who are transferring for a second time. Each waiver request will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis, but moving forward, student athletes must meet one of the following criteria to be granted a waiver to compete immediately. A demonstrated physical injury or illness or mental health condition that necessitated the student's transfer with supporting documentation, care plans, and proximity of the student support system will be considered.
Okay.
Or exigent circumstances. Can we not use another word? What are we doing? Exigent circumstances that clearly necessitate a student athlete's immediate departure from the previous school, i.e. physical assault or abuse or sexual assault, unrelated to the student's athletics participation. All other guidelines will no longer be used for waiver requests to compete during championship seasons that first occur in 2023-2024. The council agreed that athletics reasons, including lack of playing time, position presence, and more, should not warrant waiver relief. They recommend these changes to transfer. Blah 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 blah.
Anyone who knows me knows that I take mental health very seriously, but it seems to me that they left a very clear thing here. Hey, I've got mental health issues. I'm depressed. I need to go closer to home.
But it's going to at least require you to go do some work
to
get care plan. Yeah, I mean,
bit.
you're going to have to actually follow through with documents and things. It's not as easy as, hey, look. I mean, I agree, but
hey, I'm sad. I need to go.
And maybe that's the new grandma's sick. I don't know. Like, maybe that's it. Maybe that's where we're at now. But I don't know.
The new grandma's sick. I'm kind of sad.
That did not say anything about a head coach leaving, however, to get you out of any sort of.
It didn't,
because that would get into playing time and position presence and those things. Yeah, I bet the council gets a lot of free St. Elmo's.
The council.
Name tags, say the council.
Yeah.
Robes.
Yeah. That's what I pictured, them sitting up on a big dais with robes and kind of dark behind them, kind of like a red curtain.
Yeah.
Like
you have to come kneel at the feet when you have a
request. A blood red curtain behind
them. Who's
them.
on the council?
I don't know.
Is that the thing that Sankey and Swarbrick are chairs of?
I want it to be that. Like the Wizard of Oz, sort of. You're going to see the wizard.
The man behind the mirror. It's fair.
My head coach left. I got sad, as Ginger said.
Yeah. I have mental anguish because my head coach left. I need therapy.
I feel abandoned. I have abandonment issues.
Oh. Look, there will be some dumb waivers.
I'm just telling. And then once it starts.
No, you either hardlined or you let a slippery slope just take you on all the way down the water slide. One or the other.
I know which way this is going.
Okay. They felt tough in the room. These are the rules.
Not going to hardline all these kids. Not going to do it. There's nothing that's happened in the past 3 years that makes me believe that suddenly they're going to draw a hard line. I'm with them. I think the rules as the council passed, make sense. I just don't think they're going to enforce them when it's flesh and blood. I don't.
Still no determination about Lamar Jackson's status for this weekend.
The NFL doesn't typically do the secretive thing.
No.
And so if he hasn't practiced, he hasn't practiced. And if he hasn't practiced now in 40 days or something like that, I might be off a day or two. I think it's 38.
He sprained the PCL on December the 4th. So do the math. Yeah, something like that.
Yes.
40 days.
40-ish days. I don't think he's playing on Sunday night. And Huntley was out there, the backup, but he wasn't throwing. Here's crazy. Cincinnati and Buffalo both might play playoff games against third-string quarterbacks.
Ooh.
Before meeting one another in Buffalo. Boy. That is going to be a really interesting game if we get it.
You really want that game. You need 2 wins.
I want that game because there's a part of me that wants to see if the Bengals go, all right, cool, we'll be there. Or if the Bengals go, we're going to come. But guys, this should be played in Atlanta. It really should. Because we were beating them. I know we don't want to talk about what happened on that play. And thank God he's okay. And I'm doing the Bengals thing for a minute.
Yeah, sure.
But that was 1st and 10 at the 48. We were marching.
Well, Zach Taylor kind of did that after he found out Hamlin was probably okay.
Yeah.
He sort of got there in that press conference that day.
I'll say this. I think there will be – America seems to want to make the Bengals the heel for some reason. And I don't really get it, but I think the Bengals might own that, and it might be really interesting to watch. All right, we're gonna pop the bubble on this fairy tale. And then I think the Bengals turn around and go, oh, and by the way, this game in Kansas City, it shouldn't be there. It should have been in Atlanta. But we're going to show up.
What's the rule on that? What is the weird – that game's neutral site if it's one or the Bengals or the Bills,
only if it's Bills. Only if it's Bills Chiefs is it neutral site.
Oh,
really? If it's
okay.
Bengals Chiefs.
Because you had to have the opportunity to catch.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
But the next week, if it's Bengals Bills, I think the Bengals are going to go, this game shouldn't be in Buffalo, but we'll be there. Yeah. Bring it.
The question is also looming with the Ravens. And again, if he hasn't practiced, he hasn't practiced. And I think I did see some stat last week where, and maybe today was the critical day, any player who was doubtful or out on Thursday had not played on Sunday this season.
Yeah.
I think was the way the stat had read. But they don't have the contract yet. He turned down a $250 million contract at the end of last season that had $133 guaranteed. He wants a contract very similar to what Deshaun Watson got in Cleveland moving forward. Now, Baltimore can do one of two things. They could end up with him re-signing. They could do it with another team, or they could franchise him. Now, do that, and you got some stuff. But they do have a franchise tag left to use on him, but they want. Franchise tag is the average of the top salaries at the position.
The problem with it doesn't give him the big signing bonus payday.
No, you're holding him hostage for a year.
Yeah.
That you're contractually able to do, but
and that's when
it's your quarterback.
And that's when he goes, you could have put the tag on Roquan.
You could have tagged Roquan.
Just saying.
That'd been a cheaper tag.
Assuming that he doesn't play on Sunday and the Bengals beat the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
That's the assumption here, is for the sake of the conversation. I'm going to say that Lamar Jackson's played his last game as a Raven.
I think I agree.
I think they trade him.
Yeah, I think I agree.
And it's interesting stuff. Like, and look, knock on wood, he's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope I'm wrong. But this Tua thing's got a funny feel to it.
Oh, it's had a funny feel since the first one this season.
Like, if you told me that Tua's played his last NFL snap.
Period.
Buy or sell. I think today I buy.
It does appear to have a really strange feeling.
And I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, of course.
I hope he if he wants to play, that he's able to play. But that press conference.
Has Ryan said anything about that? He's always focused on that.
I hadn't talked to him about it. I was watching McDaniels yesterday though, and there was something weird about the way that he answered, the way that he addressed it. Even though it was totally up front, it just kind of felt, hasn't passed the protocols, isn't going to play, is out. Realistically, they're not beating Buffalo with a third-team quarterback. I mean, that's not a realistic projection. And if that's the case, you go into the offseason, and Miami would be shopping for quarterbacks, I would think. And again, if I'm the Bears, I'm sitting there going, hey, you know our number, right? You know the number. Call. Phone lines are open. Because they got that first pick. And if
mm-hmm.
they're sold on Justin Fields as their guy, then that pick is for sale. It is going to be sold to the highest bidder.
Yeah, come get it.
I mean, it is. We are moving this pick. I tell people there is a 0% chance, just so you know, There is a 0% chance that we take Will Anderson or the kid from Georgia,
Jalen Carter.
I don't know why I keep forgetting his name. There's a 0% chance we take that guy with the first pick. 0. If you force our hand, we will take Bryce Young. So you want Bryce Young, you're going to have to trade.
Yeah, we'll take Bryce and be happy about it. So,
and the price is going to be expensive as hell, just let you know. So
if you don't want us to have him,
bring your war chest. Because we are not taking Will Anderson or Jalen Carter number 1. Not doing it. So you got 4 months to figure this out.
Trade or Bryce Young.
You want him? Figure it out. And that's when I wonder if one of those teams goes, all right, well, just to kick the conversation around, would you be interested in Lamar Jackson?
There's no way, and I get he's stuck to his job too. The Texans general manager, his blood pressure is not down yet, right?
No.
Because it would just
furious.
Just take Bryce Young and this is all over.
Yeah. Get the first pick.
He has a real easy next 3 months. He can hold the jersey and it's all done. And we'll start marketing and we have our quarterback.
Oh, instead of him.
Yeah, Davis Mills. I mean.
Instead of Bryce Young walking on the stage and getting one of those jerseys that doesn't fit, you could have had the damn thing specifically tailored.
We got months.
Where he slips that thing on the stage and wherever the draft is this year. And it's like, oh, that is his game jersey.
Because your team won a game.
I mean, and he went for 2.
Shank the extra point.
Can you imagine what was
you would be down the sidelines yelling, going, no.
When they line up to go for 2, you got to be going, are you?
Are we taking a knee?
Take a knee right here.
I mean, seriously, fall down, please.
Or throw the ball into the 18th row and go, Merry Christmas.
Prove we didn't do it on, whatever. Sorry.
It slipped.
Yeah.
Whoops.
My bad. They won. This isn't getting enough play because
I would have paid.
It changed the franchise.
I would have lined up to kick the extra point and told my kicker, "Hey, there's $100,000 in here for you to shank this."
Yeah, kick it directly into your center's ass,
or kick it so far wide. It looks like one of my golf shots.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
I missed it. It happens,
and it's 35. It's not like it's
people miss extra points.
The pressure got me. Whoops, sorry.
I slipped.
Damnedest thing.
I slipped. I tell the holder, drop the ball.
Yeah, the snap is bad.
Hey, we'll make this easy.
Yeah.
Center, here's $100,000. Snap it on the ground. Hey, holder, here's $100,000.
Do not make a hero play.
Just mess it up.
Muff it.
$100,000. Take the wife to a really nice dinner on us. All good. No, go for 2 and make it? Oh, no. Because now, I mean, at a minimum, the Texans, the 12th pick that they also have is gone.
Yeah.
At a minimum, it's gone. And at a maximum, someone else is going to trade up into that spot and get Bryce Young, and I've got Davis Mills again. And Doors makes a great point. They hired a guy that they never intended to hire.
They fired him after 1 year.
And they hired him to fire him. And they fired him after 1 year. And Lovie Smith was probably the guy laughing his ass off on the sideline.
Yeah.
Like, enjoy your offseason. Because if I'm Lovie Smith, I'm out playing golf someplace going, yeah, we went for 2. Did you see that?
Yeah, telling the story to everybody.
Yeah. So what happened was.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm going to hit this. Hold on, I'm going to drink this mimosa for just a moment. That's what I'd be. Because you left them with the parting gift.
Oh, you devastated them beyond words.
I mean, you ruined the Texans' offseason. And again, if you're the Bears, and we just go back into this, someone said it in the thing, the Bears they're not only in the driver's seat, they own the fleet. Because they also have $100 and whatever it is, millions of dollars, $100-something million to go into the free agency. They are dealing from a position of total strength on a team that's nowhere near as bad. Now, they're not good, but they're nowhere near as bad as the typical.
On a 5-year stock market, you would contemplate very easily taking the Bears over the Green Bay Packers.
Oh, I would.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even contemplate. I would just do it.
Lions, tougher sell. They're good.
I'd take the Lions over the Bears.
Yeah. And the Vikings have been very steady.
And the Vikings have been steady.
Let's see this playoffs.
Yeah. But the Vikings are a solid team.
Oh, yeah,
solid
they're
organization. Good. Even if they lose to the Giants,
they're good.
I'm not going to go, oh, they're done. No,
they're good.
No, they're fine.
They're very well run.
Yeah.
Sean Payton already has interviews lined up with Denver, Arizona, and Houston.
Okay, if I'm Sean Payton, I'm not.
You're not going to the circus in Houston.
I'm not going to Houston. See, my question if I'm Sean Payton in Denver is, okay, but it's Russell Wilson. Like, I got to ask real questions about Russell Wilson. Arizona.
I've got an injured Kyler right now.
Here's the truth. I got to ask real questions about Kyler Murray. Now, I like Kyler more than I like Wilson.
Unless something really obvious comes up. If you're Sean Payton, you can't force him to go somewhere. Do you consider waiting another year? You're Sean Payton. And you don't have to do the whole draft trade thing next year.
Is there a scenario where the Saints go, hey, Sean, let's run this back?
I don't know if he wants to do it. People around Payton, because I know a few people, they think he's looking at legacy right now and trying to get a second franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, one who has potential, but one who has never won. He's kind of locked into that challenge of, hey, if I could do this with the Saints and somebody else, now we're Hall of Fame, big time.
Theo Epstein.
Yeah, we're slipping on the jacket.
Yeah. People like, why did Theo leave Boston? He could have stayed forever. Well, because if he did it someplace else, especially where he did it,
yeah, he gets Boston and Chicago.
I mean, he's first ballot.
Yeah, it's over.
Yeah.
So there's part of him that's looking for a situation with a similar opportunity. I just don't know if it's any of these three places.
What is McVay doing? He told all of his coaches, if you want to leave, I'm not going to stop you.
The one dude went back to Kentucky.
That was kind of already happening anyway, but he's told the rest of his staff, like, I could stop it, but I won't. If you need to look for another job, do, because I don't know what I'm doing.
Again, I know no one around the Rams at all personally. The media out there seems to believe he's going to come back for one more season and then hang it up. And he and Stafford will both ride off
in the sunset
after one more year.
I mean, he's got his title.
Jason McIntyre, who I'm kind of hit or miss with a lot of times, he was talking to Cowherd yesterday or the day before. Thought he had an interesting take that would make some sense. Matthew Stafford to the Jets.
Oh.
For a run. Get 1 or 2 years, could throw in the wind, still got the big arm.
Well, they have a lot there.
The defense is good.
Yeah.
You get Breece Hall back.
There's a lot there if you had a quarterback.
Yeah. The problem they've got is that division has got Buffalo in it, and you're just like, okay, what are you selling out for?
This is where the NFL's king. You can talk about the NFL just nonstop.
Well, now
it has so many storylines that you can do it nonstop.
Because of the lack of draft picks, I don't think somebody said in the stream, Payton could just wait to see if McVay left the Rams. Next year, okay. The problem right now is even if they left, the Rams could not replace McVay with Payton because they don't have anything to give the Saints.
Yeah.
Neither one of those teams have draft picks.
Right.
So there's nothing to barter with. I mean, you're not.
But if McVay stayed one more year, Payton,
the way I understand
Payton
it, Payton is in his
penalty.
last year with that situation. Yes, because right now the Saints, that's the part of this. Payton essentially doesn't get full control either. I mean, he says yes to jobs. The Saints get to pick.
Right.
Because they're trading for him. I mean, it's a trade.
Does he have
it's veto power, I think. But I don't think he has, if there's two, and he's like, yeah, I'm fine with either. I think the Saints get to pick it.
Okay.
So whatever deal is better for them.
I mean, if I'm Sean, I'm not giving up Payton. I'm not giving up that kind of freedom. I'm not going, okay, yeah, I'll go to Denver or the Rams. No.
Or the Saints go, okay, you want to come back here or you want to go to Denver? Those are your options. Or do you want to sit out? But if you want to coach today, it's either us or Denver.
What did he do this past year? Just hang out?
TV. Because somebody asked him yesterday, do you have any interest in meeting? Because there's some Tampa Bay buzz on their coach being out. And it's like, you have any interest in teaming up with Brady for one final year? And he made some comment about how the only way we're going to do that is if Tom comes and joins me on TV.
Okay.
So.
I mean, Sean Payton's been down the old quarterback route.
Yeah.
I mean.
That can't be what he's thinking.
Hey, I got this playbook that's completely limited because my quarterback's old. So I'm going to go put the same playbook in with an even older quarterback.
Yes.
Makes no sense.
No. So. We'll have Neal's picks up.
I think Saturday morning.
Is that what we're
Brian's are in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Saturday, Sunday, Monday games
Yep,
for this weekend. So we'll have that. Still up. RebelGrove.com. Should something happen, we're monitoring, guys. It just kind of is what it is right now. As we get into the middle of January, Ole Miss has an opening. A lot of talk about another potential opening going on.
Yeah, let's be transparent here. I don't expect, and I could be wrong, because again, it's pretty tight-lipped over there. I don't expect there to be a new cornerbacks coach hired until this defensive coordinator thing, which might not be a thing but appears to be somewhat of a thing, gets settled.
As long as it's up in the air.
Yeah.
I think I agree with that.
And so until that happens, people are like, what? Someone sarcastically asked me yesterday, is there a cornerbacks coach hot board? And it was, number one, that's funny. Number two, I wouldn't even know where to start.
No.
And number three, it would be a total guess.
Yeah, there's just too many question marks right now. And again, I mean, it's Lane. He could hire somebody in 10 minutes. But
and then we'll have recruiting coverage as well. I expect I was told yesterday, quote, a couple, end quote, of visitors expected this weekend. I did not get the impression that either of those had been finalized. I don't know who they are. I have a guess on one. That's it. Waiting on a couple of guys. Frankly, I expected some news yesterday that has not yet happened, so maybe it happens today. We will have McCready and Siskey, powered by Rain Total Body Fuel, at 3 p.m. Central Time today. That'll be at 3. And yeah, I think that's it. Taping Butcher versus Spin Instructor, presented by LB's Meat Market this afternoon. I'll put that up at some point Friday.
Okay. So that's that. Appreciate everybody in the stream as always. Have a safe few days here. We'll be back very soon. Talk to you then.